Rebecca. I live in Grant Park. I moved here about 8 months ago, and all of last semester I didn't have a car. I got my bike at Outback. It's a U District Torker. I don't bike as much now because I have a car, but when I did bike a lot, I don't know. I bike 20 miles a day.
My name is Jensen. I'm a senior in computer engineering at Georgia Tech. I've probably been biking seriously for 2 years.
My name's Jason. I study electrical engineering at Georgia Tech, and biking is my way to get around town.
Came to Georgia Tech in 2012, moved into the dorms. I didn't bring my car with me, but I brought this hybrid mountain bike that I'd owned for a long time. Started riding it to and from class.
Started going to school at Georgia Tech and couldn't afford having a car on campus, and I bought this bike from my friend.
I got into biking because I didn't want to pay for car insurance, I didn't want to buy a car, I didn't want to pay for gas, I didn't want to deal with the traffic in Atlanta, I didn't want to get another speeding ticket.
I built this from scratch off Craigslist, the KHS Flight 100 frame with pieces that I gathered from various friends or internet sources. Probably the bike new would have cost $600. I built it for about $200.
Yeah, I had to make a few repairs, kind of change the wheel, and I don't know, I just started biking around town and realized that I could get around, and now my bike is my freedom.
There's a lot of reasons I like biking. I like the fact that I can rely on myself for my transportation. I know that what I'm riding I can fix entirely on my own with the tools that are in my backpack. I also like that I don't have to deal with traffic. And I like that it keeps me healthy.
I like biking because you're outside, and it's exercise, but also you can kind of feel proud of yourself when you get somewhere you need to go. You can say, I brought myself there, my own two legs and a bike, it's 2 wheels.
Biking is just fun. I like the exercise. I don't have to go to the gym. Makes me sleep better at night, and it's like good for social networking too, surprisingly, I found out. I've been to SOPO a couple times. First time fixed my brakes, and second time looked for handlebars. So I'm just someone who goes here, don't volunteer or anything. It's pretty cool. It's donation based, so like you donate time that they've helped you or for parts that you've gotten or something like that. It's really awesome because for people like me who like don't have all of the tools, like there's a pretty high initial cost for some of these things, and they provide them for you so that you can buy it.
Hi, I'm Adam. I'm the volunteer coordinator at SOPO. So it started out with just a bunch of friends who all rode bikes sort of for commuting, getting to work, maybe for their jobs even, deliverers, and not having money or time to give their only source of transportation to a bike shop for a week to have it fixed up. They realized that there was sort of a need not only for the tools that it takes to fix bikes, but for the knowledge and resources too. And so they pulled together, bought some tools. She started out in a house first, I think, but then eventually created a mobile repair situation that they took to different places to help people fix bikes. And eventually they acquired the space in East Atlanta. Operated there for a few years and then moved here. And so the philosophy behind SOPO is sort of a community tool chest, sharing knowledge as well as the tools here. Actually, we're open to everyone to come in. And people can come and learn to fix their own bikes. That's a big emphasis, is that we don't fix bikes for people, but we give the people the knowledge and the tools necessary to learn their own bikes. And that's what the volunteers here primarily do, is teach other people how to fix bikes. And so we're very proud of that. It's like a very DIY, sort of self-empowering organization, which is a great aspect of SOPO.
Some cars think that you're supposed to ride in the shoulder, and like probably some bikers do too, but really like we should be able to use a lane the same way a car does, and it's really dangerous. It's like when somebody is riding in the shoulder, if there's like a pothole and they have to swerve into the lane, the car can hit them. So if you're in the middle of the lane, you can swerve into the shoulder and it's like less dangerous. There's just, I wish there were more bike lanes and that people would stop telling me to get off the road and go on the sidewalk. That happens to me like much more frequently than I would like. People be like, get off the road. And people sometimes trying to like run me off the road. But like biking on the sidewalk is dangerous because you can hit people and like there's way more potholes in the sidewalk and it's really bad for your bike. Yeah, those are my concerns.
Safety concerns, I mean, you should wear your helmet, you should use lights, flashing lights, front and rear. You know, don't skimp out on the safety elements of your bike. Make sure your brakes are good. Brake with your front brake. Ride with lights. Obey the laws. Don't run red lights. Don't run stop signs. Signal your turn. But the biggest concern is just the fact that a lot of motorists don't like you being on the road and are hostile towards you. But all you can really do is stay in your space and not give way. And generally people will get over it and get around you, and that'll be the end of it.
Just other people on the road, the other drivers, sometimes it's hard for them to see me, like coming into intersections or just blind turns and stuff like that. Make sure there's enough space on the road for bikes. I've heard of Cyclo-Atlanta, and I've definitely seen people post the pictures of the routes they've taken and stuff. And I'm kind of wondering, you know, what they're going to do with all that information.
I'm Christopher Dantec. I'm an assistant professor in the digital media program at Georgia Tech. The app was specifically looking at the kinds of things that are going on in Atlanta and the way that we wanted to help inform policymakers and urban planners create new bike infrastructure and facilities. So one of the things that Mayor Reed is currently working on is doubling the number of bike track miles in Atlanta. And so this is a way for him to do that, or for the city to do that, by looking at where cyclists are currently going and meeting the need where it exists rather than kind of guessing. A cyclist can start the app and they say, okay, when I begin my ride, I hit start and it starts recording, and at the end of the ride, they hit save. At that point, they tell us something about the ride. So the reason that they took the ride, was it for commuting, was it a social ride, was it for exercise? They also have a chance to tell us about themselves. So we ask a series of just general demographic questions, as well as a very specific question on the kind of rider that they are. And so they self-categorize on a type of rider, and that helps us understand some of the motivations or the choices behind the routes that were taken. So we can look at the data set and we can say, oh, we know that the very confident riders in Atlanta tend to go in particular ways. And people who are less confident, maybe they don't want to be riding in traffic, or they don't want to be riding up major hills, will take different routes. And that tells planners something important about where to put new facilities that will address the widest possible population of riders. One of the things that it's doing is it's allowing a much larger population of cyclists to have some direct input into the planning of new facilities. So we have over 1,500 cyclists who have been using the app and providing data on where they ride. And that's a substantial number of people over a year and a half of the app being in use. And it gives a much broader picture of kind of who is in the city, who is riding their bikes, and where they're going. We added some new features to the app. One was the ability to record notes. These notes are things like, oh, there's a pothole here, or there's a stoplight that's not responding to a bicycle coming up to it, or there's some other infrastructure problem that you want to point out that needs to be addressed. And so we're trying to promote that particular feature out into the community so that we start to generate this local knowledge about where things are. So on the one side, we have the positive things that would be useful for the community to start to share about ways to actually successfully navigate Atlanta on a bicycle. But then there's also the part of, given the facilities that we already have, or the states of the streets that we already have, can we get that information to the city so that they can start fixing those potholes or start looking at some of the traffic lights that aren't responding to bikes. Students can get involved by using the app. We also are looking at ways to have students participate in figuring out what to do with the data. So we have this collection of data, and so what are the interesting kinds of things that people might want to know about Atlanta and cycling in Atlanta, really to support that kind of grassroots community effort. Part of it is, the more visible cycling is as a mode of transportation, then it starts to become safer, just because we start to set expectations on the road people in cars start looking out for people on bicycles. People on bicycles also start understanding that they have an obligation to obey the rules of the road. And so these things feed on each other, and so being able to connect students into these efforts is an important part of it.
I would encourage everyone to bike, and then we would have more of a bike-friendly city because they'd be forced to like put in more bike lanes and for drivers to be more aware of bikers. I mean, it's great. I think anybody who like doesn't have to go more than 5 miles on a daily basis, like that lives near their school and work, should just get a bike because it always takes the same amount of time to get places. Like you never have to deal with traffic. It takes me like 15 minutes to get to school, 30 minutes to get to work. And it just improves your quality of life too, in terms of like being healthier, and it's just like really meditative too. And you're just biking by yourself. Like you can't listen to the radio or get distracted.
I would definitely encourage people to ride bikes, and I think the best way is to just get people out on the road with you and just take them out on a bike ride.
It's a great way to meet people. You know, you'll be out and riding, and you'll run into someone. You'll start to recognize people's bikes before you recognize them, and eventually you'll talk to them about their bikes. And you know, it's just a common language to speak with people that might not have anything in common with otherwise.